much going on other than some farming. In 1886, a guy called George Harrison,
not the guy from the Beatles,
found gold on a farm called Langlaagte, and all hell's been breaking loose ever since. Gold seekers rushed in, started pitching their tents and prospecting, and soon it would become the world's biggest campsite. As more and more gold was found, the camps got spruced up, the systems jacked up, and the people stacked up. Johannesburg would expand quickly, and the foot remains flat down on the pedal, with mine dumps appearing over the city over the years as evidence of the progress. The tented camp soon developed into a tin roof shanty settlement because it seemed like the logical step, I guess, which in turn became an Edwardian-style town and eventually the current sprawling African city that is today's Johannesburg.
Now, there's always some joy derived from poking a little fun at ourselves, but not often enough do we see this done in the formal form of visual medium. There's the long line of Leon Schuster films and the like, but a reality of South Africa, and more specifically Johannesburg, has yet to be documented in this humorous way. Director Adrian Loveland took up the challenge with his comedy documentary Unhinged, Surviving Johannesburg, which looks at the light side and dark side of Joburg and all the points in between, all the while maintaining the wit and bringing out the laughter. We have Adrian Loveland in studio. Thanks so much for joining us. So, Unhinged, Surviving Joburg, it is a war zone out there, you say?
I used to think it was, and that you had to face it that way, but I think I've learned through this that to see it as a war zone is the wrong way about it, because it just sort of creates more, if you want to give it a war, it'll give it right back to you. So I think it's got similarities that you could draw from it, but overall, I think it's
Yeah, because the ambition was really to encourage people maybe to see the positive and walk away and not see Johannesburg really as this ground zero or survivalist kind of environment.
Yeah, well, a lot of the things I can't say the ambition was to do that because I kind of had to wait and see how it unfolded. I can say that in the end I can see that, yeah, it's good to take the blinkers off and make sure that you're positive and realistic so that you're knowing what the bad stuff is. But once you've done that, it sort of empowers you to, opens up your heart and soul to actually see what the good stuff is.
Yeah, because I mean, it started out really, as you took us back in time, 1886, really with the gold rush, etc. So it's a history lesson in there and how we've developed to really become entrepreneurs and champions of industry. It is the economic hub of the country and continent. But how do you deal with the disparities still that we see in society?
The disparities, they're so big here, but they're also so much part of what we are. So, you know, it started in 86, and then since then it's just been and all of a sudden it's today, you know. Even in there you'll see it only does like 20 seconds of the history, but it sort of puts it in a nutshell. And the disparities I think they're pretty much our core problem. Like, okay, yeah. I'm not a political or a social commentator. Oh, maybe I am, I guess. But they're at our core, that disparity. So I think once you start filling that hole and chiseling it together, putting some polyfiller over the cracks, then we'll be on our way.
And how did you decide on your interviewees?
I just decided about 40 people over the time. They weren't all in the same period. It was over a couple of years. And then I would ask, please, 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 will you? And some said yes, some said no. Most were very nice, very accommodating. Some couldn't do it time scheduling wise, but I ended up with the ones that I got, and you're very happy with them.
Yeah, and what's the underlying message that comes from those also champions of industry? I know you have Pharrell Haffajee, and you have other people as well.
Pharrell Haffajee, Robbie Brosen, Justice Malala, Victor Khumswana, Jill Gifford, David O'Sullivan, a nice bunch. The overall message coming through was positive realism, that we have to face everything that's there with us, and we know in Joburg and South Africa we've got huge issues to face, but at the same time, if you're here just to make a difference, even if it's in your own life, you don't have to help other people, help yourself. Just don't live with blinkers on.
Somebody else would say it's a small action, but I mean, if 2 or 3 other people were to drive the same message, we're talking about the legacy of the 2010 World Cup. How do we build on it? Everybody was so united and we had this euphoria, and then the minute the World Cup was over, it's almost like we went back to that lull of saying, oh, okay, there we are again.
You know what, if you think back to the Rugby World Cup in '95 and sort of the social hangover that followed that, everyone, we were going crazy for that night and the next day and the next day, and all of a sudden, 10 years later, we wake up and like, oh my gosh, crime's been so hectic, everything's gone wrong. Not everything, obviously, but with that World Cup, it was such a long, sustained and euphoria that came out of caution and so much nervousness from all of us, from the whole country for years. You know, how much time do we spend on writing, is it going to happen, is it going to happen? And in the end, we did it. We drilled that tournament so well that I think the euphoria will last. I think euphoria might have subsided, but I think that energy, we'd have to do a lot to mess it up from here because it's going to last a long time for us to draw from. So I don't think we need to worry too much about today waving the flag or, you know, wave the flag.
I still have my mirror flag.
I love that, you know what I mean? It's all good. I don't feel the depression at all. Though.
Yeah, Unhinged Surviving Joburg is available where?
It's available on www.survivingjoburg.com. No apostrophes, survivingjoburg.com. And then our distributor, they're called Soul Candy. They are driving it to stores like your Musicas, Reliables, Look and Listen, CNA, that vibe. But those stores still have to buy it from them. So.
All right, yeah. Stunning. Well, all the best then, and congratulations.
Thanks a lot.
All right, Adrian, thanks so much. We're speaking to the director of the comedy documentary Unhinged, Surviving Joburg, Adrian Loveland, telling us about the film, and you can go to survivingjoburg.com if you want a copy of details for just under 40 Rand.
Generally want to avoid this one. If you want to catch a taxi to town, just do this. And if you want to buy a round of drinks, it's the same as anywhere. People that give the city its personality, so I guess we should call it whatever we want it to be. Joburg is marching forward, and the camps are still getting spruced up, the system's jacked up, and the people keep on stacking up. Overall, I think there's a lot of realistic reasons to be positive and hopeful about Joburg, for all the scary stuff. So, dare I say it, here's to Josie. Right next to houses like this, there are places like this. After nearly 2 decades of democracy, too many Joburgers remain in the never-ending...